Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Jenna here. Thank you so much for joining us. Many of our customers are women who have been prescribed birth control for over a variety of reasons. And some were given birth control to control their acne at a young age. And then many others were prescribed to manage their PCOS. Um, Birth control is a synthetic hormone that can act as endocrine disruptors. And this means that they can interfere with your natural hormone. For some patients, it has achieved a very desired effect, but for many others, it's actually causing natural hormone imbalances. And this is why we are glad to be joined by Chelsea Potter. She is a hormone dietitian who has many female patients who deal with the hormone symptoms of birth control. So, hi, Chelsea.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit awkward silence. I was trying to invite you.
That's okay. I'm always really proud of myself when I can figure it out on here. I'm happy to be here. How are you?
Good, good. I just mentioned that we had a really great Instagram live back in February talking about nutrition and adrenal health. So, so happy you could be back on to talk about this super important topic today.
So important. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is really fun. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. So for those who have not heard your story, tell us a little bit more about tell us about your educational background and what made you become a hormone dietitian.
Yeah, my name's Chelsea. I am a registered dietitian. So, giving you a little background on that, that's not just, taking some 1 month program and calling yourself a nutritionist, right? Like, you have to have your degree, you have to go through
Mhm.
many, many hours of clinical supervised work, and, you have to pass a board exam and you've got to take lots of continuing education. It's a very regulated title. I like to kind of throw that out there, right? You want to make sure you're getting your nutrition advice from someone who actually knows what they're talking about, right? um, that being said, I feel like I am still taking courses after course and like every single day reading articles. I mean, there's so much to know on this topic, but the reason I became a hormone dietitian is I think a lot of us follow a path that like our own health takes us down. I worked in conventional medicine for years, hospitals, clinics, and those settings never provided me what I needed in order to heal my hormones. So I had to really go on my own journey and figure that out for myself and realize that there's such a lack of educating women on ways that we can heal our hormones. And there's
Mhm.
so many symptoms that we just normalize as women, like being in pain and PMS and all this. So I was like, I'm not here for it. I am ready to educate women on how great they can feel. So that was a long way to answer that question, Britt.
No, love it. I'm still trying to maintain my RD license, and yeah, it is literally hours of continued education training, and let alone, all the years spent in college and also the whole year long internship. So yeah, it's a very regulated profession, and yeah, everyone make sure you talk to someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, you need to have your master's degree now to be a registered dietitian. Just
Right.
crazy.
All right. So what exactly is a hormone dietitian?
Well, it probably depends who you ask, right? What they really specialize in, because hormones in and of itself, that's even really broad of, topic wise. I mean, you might have a dietitian that specializes in thyroid hormone. I work a lot with women who have adrenal and thyroid issues. So that's like more your cortisol system, your stress system, and burnout and fatigue. Like, I really love working with women on that stuff. And then there's your sex hormones. I work with that a lot as well. And just kind of like getting your cycle to a place where you can use it to like optimize your health, right? And understand how our bodies work that way. Like we're just not taught this stuff, which
Right.
should be. So I kind of work generally with like a lot of that stuff, but um, I really enjoy working with what we're about to talk about today in particular.
Let's get in.
Yeah.
So what are some reasons that your patients were prescribed birth control in the first place?
Right. So, of course, a lot of women are on it for contraception, right? Trying to prevent
Mhm.
pregnancy. And um, even then, we're not educated on all of our options. There are a lot of non-hormonal, very effective, ways of preventing pregnancy that we just don't talk about.
Mhm.
That's a whole nother topic. Today, we're kind of talking about the big percentage of women that are on birth control for certain conditions or symptoms.
Mhm.
What I see a lot is hormonal birth control kind of being used as this kind of one size fits all approach to like women's problems.
Right.
And I think that one size fits all approach kind of comes from lack of education in the doctor's office on women's health. um, Maybe even some stigma around women's
Mhm.
health, a lot of normalizing of symptoms, even in the healthcare community, like, oh no, that's just a normal part of being a woman. So what I see a lot are symptoms that could range from being really, just annoying, and symptoms that range from being like totally detrimental to your quality of life, right? So we can see acne, painful, heavy periods, endometriosis, really common. And then one that really gets me is like irregular cycles and PCOS.
Mhm.
We put a lot of women on the
Right.
pill for that, and it literally does not do anything but help with symptoms, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. Like, some of us have such extreme symptoms that we need to be on the pill. Like, I'm not shaming those people at all. Um, but when women are being put on the pill, they're not being told, so this is your option. It can help with
Mhm.
symptoms, but it's not fixing the problem. A lot of women are going on the pill thinking like, oh no, look, I'm having a regular cycle now. And it's like, that's actually not a
Yes.
period. That's a withdrawal bleed. That's not a regular period. And kind of how hormonal birth control works, and this is a really blanket statement because there's lots of different kinds, it basically works by shutting off that hormonal system
Mhm.
instead of fixing what might be causing the imbalance. So my approach is like, okay, what I mean is very individualized and personalized for each person, but you know, my approach is usually the root cause approach, because I want you to be able to get the benefits of those hormones and really find that balance, which is possible. We're not even told that's possible.
Right.
Usually. Yeah.
A complete lack of education. So do you feel there are some benefit of taking birth control for hormones then? I know there are some people, when you mentioned there are some people who just have to take it. But is there another category that could be beneficial?
Yeah. So, I think it's beneficial if you need symptom resolution now. Like, for some women, like for if you have PMDD, for example, like going on antidepressants or certain types of birth control can be life-saving because of suicidal thoughts, etc. Like, it's amazing in some realms. And then, but in the end, like, it's not, again, not doing
Mhm.
anything to fix the hormones. So there really isn't any benefit other than giving you some space maybe sometimes to
Mhm.
work on the root cause, or giving you a breather so that you can live your life. Like, that's a great thing, right? I'm not discounting that.
Right. And why can taking birth control, we kind of mentioned a little bit about anxiety. Why can taking birth control can cause anxiety in some women?
I think that depends on the woman and like your vulnerability, to anxiety and what that root cause is for you. Um, there's a lot of mechanisms at play there, either direct or indirect. Uh, so, for example, birth control can affect copper zinc balance, which is really important mineral balance for mood and anxiety. Um, it also can affect thyroid function. So again, like if you're vulnerable or have the genetics for any thyroid issues, anything going on suboptimally there, like it can maybe push you over the edge there. It also affects your gut health. So
Mhm.
if we're affecting gut health, you're really gonna open yourself up to a lot of different possibilities, whether that's your metabolic health changing, detoxification changing, I mean, your neurotransmitters changing, because a lot of our neurotransmitters are actually produced in the gut,
Right.
and gut bacteria are heavily involved in that process. So if your microbiome and your gut bacteria that live inside your tummy are being affected by birth control, then that really like can cause a lot of different things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you had a great post about GABA, right? The neurotransmitter. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so GABA is like your calming anti-anxiety neurotransmitter or brain chemical. Um, and one of the things that our hormone progesterone does is it stimulates and upregulates kind of the effect of GABA in the second half of our cycle, in the luteal phase, after ovulation and before our period starts. So we make progesterone after ovulation occurs. That goes up, and it's like our happy, like calming, everything's gonna be okay hormone. Um, and progestins in the pill are not the same. They do not interact with GABA receptors the same way. We don't get that natural anti-anxiety benefit of progesterone when we are on birth control most of the time, because a lot of the time the mechanism of birth control is shutting off ovulation. We can't make progesterone if we are shutting off ovulation. So yeah, so it's you might argue too that you don't feel great in that time of your cycle before your period. A couple weeks before your period might be, not great, right? Like even off of birth control. But what I will say to that is really like the game plan should be to boost those calming hormones instead of like shutting off your whole hormonal system. Like
Right.
really getting to the root cause of why maybe your estrogen and progesterone are not balanced in that phase of your cycle, instead of like, all right, let's cut our losses and completely shut off these beneficial hormones. Like not the best call for a lot of women.
That makes sense. Is it possible then to balance your hormone while you're on birth control?
Um, Now this is like a really blanket statement. Again, there's lots of different types of birth control, and some of them do allow some ovulation, but a lot of times for a lot of women, most hormonal birth controls shut off ovulation. So when that's happening, we are not able to balance our hormones, but we can support your body. If you decide after this conversation, like, no, I still want to stay on hormonal birth control, like I have informed consent now, I know I want to stay on birth control, you can still support your body while on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how long does it, if somebody wants to transition off of birth control, how long does it take for them to do it? And, what does the process look like?
I like to give my clients 3 months of really like good gut, liver, and nutrient support before we pull you off cold turkey. Because, I mean, especially if you're on the pill for like a severe symptom, like very heavy periods, and you get very anemic, or, really a lot of pain that's completely disrupting your life, or really big mood changes. Like, really, we want to be careful with that, right? But again, like it's a trade-off, right? Because if we stay on birth control, we often can have worsening of other symptoms or worsening of these symptoms. And really, again, we're not fixing anything by being on it. And a lot of women just want to fix it and kind of get better from it, versus just like putting a pause button on all these horrible symptoms that we're experiencing. Of like, oh, well, now I want to get pregnant and come off, and we're like dealing with all these symptoms, right?
That makes sense. So what type of food would you recommend for a person at this stage?
Well, it's all, we start with blood sugar balance a lot of the time. A lot of times we have a lot of opportunity there to add more protein, more, if we're really restricting carbs, I don't typically recommend that, because you need quite a bit of carbohydrate for some women in order to like jumpstart ovulation again once you come off the pill. Everybody's different, but completely cutting out carbs is not a good idea. So healthy, complex carbs. And then sometimes unhealthy complex or unhealthy carbs too. Like, that's okay. You can treat yourself. But we really are focusing on gut health as well. So that could mean as much variety in your fibers as you can tolerate. So, you know, ideally like 40 different plants a week. And I know that sounds like bonkers overwhelming, but it's really not, because every spice that you use counts. Every herb, like, small things count. Like, it doesn't have to be this huge serving all the time. Variety really helps feed a healthy microbiome and really can decrease inflammation and can make your body feel really safe in order to ovulate and prioritize, making healthy hormones in the right balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it that you're giving a number, because sometimes it's really hard for people to grasp like how much should I eat. I think 40 is like, okay, well, it's like kind of a big number. Like as you explained, all the spices, everything count. Having this number in mind is like, hey, increase my diversity of my food and my fiber. I love it.
Yeah, and healthy fat too. Like, I know that we're not really in that like 90s mindset of like cutting out fat, but some people still are. Like, you need fat. It is literally the building block of hormones. So when they're coming back online, we need to have these raw materials available, right? So plenty of protein to help with estrogen detox, like, getting in a good amount of healthy fats, healthy carbs, and kind of finding the ratio between those that works best for you. And your blood sugar. So that's like not specific foods, but specific foods are like anti-inflammatory foods like turmeric, ginger, cruciferous vegetables, antioxidant rich veggies and fruits, berries, beets, carrots, like things that really, and onions, things that really support like detox in the liver. I'm recommending a lot during this phase.
Love it. So are these nutrients are typically like birth control depletes, or are there any typical nutrients that birth control would deplete?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of nutrients that being on birth control depletes. And this is very common knowledge, but a lot of times doctors aren't even telling their women, like, you need to be on this very specific multivitamin. Like, we definitely probably need to be, well, this is too much of a blanket statement. I don't think everybody needs to be on a multivitamin, but you need to be careful about certain nutrients like B vitamins, especially if you're under a lot of stress and you're ripping through your B vitamins. Selenium, pop 2 Brazil nuts a day. You got your selenium intake. Easy. Zinc, and the balance between copper and zinc is kind of individual. So don't like go in mainline and take a bunch of, zinc supplements, but, focusing on more food sources like oysters, animal proteins, pumpkin seeds, cashews, lentils, beans, vitamin E, vitamin C, magnesium, especially if you're under stress, lots of magnesium.
So we mentioned a little bit about gut health already. So what role does gut health play in getting off of birth control?
Yeah, like I said, it's just your gut health can kind of take a toll on your microbiome, but at the same time, we have this whole estrobolome. I think I'm saying that right. I've only like read that word. I've never said it out loud before. Estrobolome. It's basically your microbiome, the bacteria in your gut have a lot to do with how we process and eliminate excess estrogen. So when your hormones come back online, one of the things that we're trying to do is really balance your estrogen and progesterone. When your estrogen's too high compared to your progesterone, that means lots of PMS symptoms and lots of those symptoms we're trying to avoid. So part of that is like pooping every day, getting it out, right? And our microbiome basically make sure that we effectively eliminate that if we have a healthy microbiome. So and then, when you think of inflammation in the body, you should be thinking about gut health. And when we think about how inflammation affects hormone health, it's how it's being produced. The signaling is affected by inflammation levels. There's so many different aspects of how inflammation affects hormones. I don't want to bore you too much with the science there, but it, like that helps with calming that inflammation down and supporting your immune health, if that makes sense.
Yeah, talking about immune health and calming your system, I mean, you also mentioned that we should support our liver while transitioning off of birth control, right? So why is that, and how do we support our liver?
Yeah, the liver is like, one of the first steps in, detoxing that excess estrogen once we do come back online. Estrogen is very good, by the way. I don't want to make it sound like estrogen's bad. We just have to be able to like detox it in order to keep it in balance, right? Alongside of like really bolstering or relaxing progesterone production. I'm a big fan of starting with lifestyle first when it comes to supporting your liver. Your liver is going to package up that estrogen, detox it, and, put it into our bile and then our GI tract to eliminate it, right? So we need to support your liver's function by realizing that liver detox is not about going on some fancy supplement cleanse. That's not what liver detox is about. It can do its job, but it does its job optimally when we are well nourished. Okay. So there's lots of nutrients that are involved in elimination and detox, and protein is a big one of them. We need a lot of different amino acids for our metabolism and detox to work well. All the B vitamins, again, especially if you're under stress, you are zipping through those. So we really need to focus on those. Folic acid, choline, flavonoid, vitamin C, magnesium. A lot of these nutrients are really important for that process. So we're just making sure you're very well nourished and have a really whole foods, nourishing diet with, supplements maybe laid on top of that for extra nutrition. And then we want to, before we detox, right, like decrease the burden that we have on the liver. So during this phase, we want to decrease alcohol. Like, sorry, don't shoot the messenger. Like, it really increases estrogen when we're trying to find this balance, right? And then our exposures to endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? I know a lot of, like, this is very important for, don't spend all this money on detoxes when you haven't even like considered the endocrine disrupting chemicals that we're being exposed to. Yeah, so lifestyle is where I kind of start with that, not some crazy, detox depot that you find on the internet, because a lot of times that does more harm than good.
Right. I've seen a lot of those, and then which is one is they don't really have the scientific expertise or expert who are guiding that experience, and second is they probably sell a lot of money. You have to spend a lot, and then third is like it's probably just going to be some vitamin, and ultimately it's only it only helps for a short time. Long term, it's you still have to rely on maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple phases of liver detox, and the intermediate, products between phase 1 and phase 2 detox are even more dangerous. So if we don't have the nutrients to get through, to support our liver through phase 1 and phase 2, a lot of these like juice cleanses and stuff only give you the nutrition for phase 1. So it might be more detrimental and more toxic for your body to go through these. And a lot of times you're being told like, oh, those detox symptoms, that means it's working. And it's like, no, it kind of means that your body's struggling on that. So just FYI.
So if someone was already practicing a really good healthy lifestyle and then they want a little bit booster, I know you also have a supplement shop. So what are some of your most popular recommended supplements?
For transitioning off of birth control, Wellevate is what I have available to my Instagram following on my links. I think I give you 15% off, I think on there. But the ones that I recommend typically for most people, Fullwell is a wonderful prenatal that's good to at least be on short term as you transfer off of the pill, right? Like it gives you a lot of those nutrients. It's actually not on Wellevate though. It's through its own separate site. You can use Chelsea 10 for a discount on that. I think that's the code.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's in all the notes so people can find it.
And then in Wellavate, Megaspore Biotic is one of my favorite probiotics. It's pretty good general probiotic for most people. Magnesium glycinate is a really supportive thing for our hormones and detox as we, you know, as we transition off the pill and ongoing. We are not getting enough magnesium in our food, people. Even if you are really trying, it's hard to get enough magnesium, and we zip through this mineral when we're under stress. So, and when we're on birth control. So, magnesium glycinate, start slow. You can even do Epsom salt baths too, or topical magnesiums if you don't want to take a pill. But some women, 100, 200, 300. I even have someone up to 800 milligrams. Like, do not start there, but like, I'm just showing you how much of a difference is. You know, everybody's different. So feel free to kind of titrate that and feel it out once you get it. Yeah, those are like, if you were to start with the basics and transitioning off birth control, those are my faves.
I love your personalized approach to like every woman is different. So tell us like what does a session with you look like?
I do a lot of coaching, right? Like I am a very like heart first, empathetic person. So and I know how hard it is to make change in these areas, right? Like I'm a human too. I struggle with making change in these areas. So I know what that feels like. So really my sessions are a lot of like, here's what we're going to do, but also here's the why behind it. So you feel really confident in what you're doing for your body. And here's the how. And not only how to make this work in this season of life, but also how can we keep this sustainable long term, which I think is a real big missing piece in most programs, right?
Right.
So it's really not 0 to 100 at all in my sessions. It's like, what's some realistic goals that aren't going to kill you to put you don't to completely stress you out to focus on. We don't want that, right? We want you to be pushing yourself a little bit, but not be overwhelming you, so you actually stick to these goals, you know?
That is so important. It looks like we have some questions. Lots of people joined. I'm gonna find the questions from top. How do you balance if you are in surgical menopausal and have been for 30 plus years?
Okay. So that's not necessarily my strength is that area. Like I said, this is a very broad hormone dietitian is very broad, right? Honestly, I would send you to Wise and Well. It's wise underscore and underscore well underscore, I think. They talk about a lot about how to support yourself on like hormone replacement and things. They might be a really good support for you. But a lot of times if we don't, it sounds like you had your ovaries removed as well. So a lot of times we have more struggles in supporting our blood sugar. So if I were to give you one recommendation, like making sure that you don't mainline calcium, because your doctor's probably like calcium, calcium, calcium. Find a balance there. Work with a dietitian that's going to like help you get the right amount of calcium so you're not like stressing, you know, your thyroid out at the same time. That's a whole nother thing, but making sure you're getting enough protein, right? And sometimes women feel better with like 30, 40 grams, like, you know, a big section of your plate, a lot of fiber, healthy fats, and then understanding your carb tolerance. That doesn't mean completely taking it out, right? Find your carb tolerance. I hope that helps.
Oh, such good information. Another one. I'm 53 years old. Of course, I passed my menopausal period, but I got fatigue, tiredness, altered thyroid, and I'm overweight.
Yeah, so really common symptoms of blood sugar dysregulation. I don't know, you know, I am not looking at your labs, but it's very common to get a lot of fatigue and burnout. If your blood sugar is going like this, your cortisol is being involved, like your adrenals are being involved in maintaining that. So again, kind of the same starting place that I told the last person is just make sure you're getting that carb tolerance right, not demonizing carbs, not being afraid of carbs, but finding that right balance for you and always pairing your carbs with a good amount of protein, 30 grams minimum per meal. So like, what's that, like 5 ounces of protein, right? And lots of veggies, right? Roast them. You'll love them roasted.
Awesome. So thank you so much. Wow, this is like so informative. So everyone be sure to follow Chelsea at good.mood.nutrition. You can check out her supplement, and we'll make sure we have discount code linked to this this post. And then also you can book a discovery call with Chelsea, and she also have like a free anxiety meal plan that's free to download.
Yeah, and it's pretty blood sugar balanced, so I think it would work for most people on this, even if you don't have anxiety. It's pretty dang good, if I do say so myself. There's lots of good recipes on there.
So everyone, please check it out, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.